The Daniel Blair Show, sponsored by Motosport.com, Mika Metals, Race Tech, ASV Inventions, and Guts Racing.
So many storylines heading into Arlington, but there can only be one lead story, and it's Cooper Webb. You know, preseason hype can be silly sometimes. Coming into 2025, most had Jett Lawrence picked to back it up and continue his journey of taking over the sport. If not Jett, then it was Chase Sexton or Eli Tomac, and maybe Cooper. He was considered a dark horse, but not many had him winning it. I didn't, honestly, and it made sense. He hadn't won a Supercross championship since 2021, and when he did, he wasn't the fastest. He was the smartest and the grittiest. He won on racecraft, mental toughness, and sheer stubbornness. But this is 2025, the sport has evolved, speed has gone up, and the next generation has elevated the game. And Cooper was seen as a bit off, maybe a win or two if things work out. 6 rounds in, everything feels different. Jett out again, a trend that started last summer at Hangtown. Eli out again, a trend that started at Denver 2023. And now the championship comes down to 2. Maybe 3 if Kenny gets a little help the next month, but it's Chase Sexton versus Cooper Webb, the guy who we all left off our prediction list, again. And yet here he is, again, doing what he always does, again. The same chip on his shoulder, the same cold-blooded mentality that makes everyone who wrote him off look ridiculous. My bad. But what drives Cooper Webb? Is it money, his legacy, bright lights and attention? No. Those are surface-level motivators. Everyone loves money, but you don't make that grumpy face on the gate because you're thinking about your bank account. You don't suffer and break yourself down to nothing just to add a few extra zeros to your savings. Is it his legacy? No. You think he's sitting around crunching numbers, staring at record books, refreshing his name on some all-time win list? He doesn't care about that, never has. Attention? Recognition? A desperate need for admiration? Come on. Webb's never been a look-at-me guy. He doesn't need the cameras, the praise, the fans screaming his name to feel full. So what is it? What's the fuel? It's doubt. It's disrespect. It's being overlooked. That's the fuel to his fire. That's what keeps him up at night, and that's what makes him dangerous, because it's real, it's internal, and it's painful. Every time someone counts him out, every time another rider is crowned the next big thing, every time someone says he's washed up, past his prime, too slow, or that someone else is more talented, more special, he takes that personally. It gets in his head. It stings bad. And the only way to make it stop is to prove them all wrong over and over again. But while we're talking legacy, let's take a look at the numbers. Coop has 2 450 Supercross championships. That's the same as Eli Tomac, the guy we call a legend, who you could make a case for on the Mount Rushmore of this sport. Coop has the same as James Stewart, a revolutionary, once-in-a-lifetime talent whose career will never be forgotten. He has 2, same as Chad Reed, a guy whose longevity and ability to reinvent himself like 5 times made him an all-time great. 2 championships like Rick Johnson and Jeff Ward, names that are forever respected in the sport's history. Yet when we talk about those guys, they're seen as legends, and when we talk about Cooper Webb, he's just good. Why? Because he doesn't have that flash and that raw speed that makes fans ooh and ah. But what if he gets 3? That puts him next to Jeff Stanton and Bob Hanna, 2 stone-cold killers of the sport. They weren't flashy either. They weren't hyped. They were bulldogs, like Coop. Mental assassins, stubborn winners, wired differently, built more for war than just nightly battles. If he wins this thing, no more overlooking him, right? He jumps names like Tomac, Stewart, Reed, Johnson, and Ward. Then do we give him respect? But let's go further, because the truth is, he could be chasing his 5th title right now if a few things go a little different. Go back to 2020, Arlington Supercross. Webb goes down hard on a dragon's back, loses a bunch of points, but still grinds his way back into the title fight. What if that crash doesn't happen, and he goes into those 7 Salt Lake City rounds closer in points? I mean, Eli was killing it that year. He deserved that title, but Salt Lake City was set up perfect for him. The altitude helped. He trains and lives in that. The hard-packed dirt was good for him too. Coop, he crushes ruts and broken down tracks where the sport turns into a dogfight and less of a speed game. Salt Lake was not set up for him, but he gave it all he had, and maybe one more win earlier in the season, no big crash in Texas, and one more goof up from Eli, and maybe, just maybe, that could have been his third championship. But it wasn't. He lost, and that stings. Fast forward to Nashville 2023. Cooper was rolling, heating up at the perfect time, closing the points gap little by little, and then, boom, he's out. Eli tears his Achilles in Denver, Chase cruises to Salt Lake City with the title on lock, and there was no Cooper Webb breathing down his neck, no one to push him into a mistake, nobody talking smack on the gate with a night to go. But what if Cooper was there? What if he's in striking distance heading into Salt Lake City? Now, I will never take away credit from Eli or Chase for Cooper not being there at the end or in position to strike. That's BS, but at a minimum, you gotta entertain the idea that it might have happened. It may have been possible. That could have been four championships. That's Ryan Dungey territory. That's Ryan Villapoto territory. That's a whole different legacy, and it wasn't far away. But no, Coop sits at 2, and I promise you, it eats him alive. Not because he needs the number, the money, the recognition. It's because he lost when he could have won, and he don't like that one bit. Now, maybe I'll be wrong on this, but I think I understand what makes him tick, what makes him different from the rest, and why he has this face on the gate. He's fueled by angst, by the feeling of being doubted, overlooked, underestimated. It's personal, and it always has been. Back when he was a kid racing Adam Cincerulo, watching him roll into the amateur nationals with all the support, the hype, the attention, he hated it. Adam was the big deal. Every factory team in the sport would have traded their kidney to sign him. He had the sponsors, the money, the full backing of the machine, and yet the kid who beat him a lot, who took races from him straight up, was barely even given a glance. That's where it started. That's where the chip on the shoulder was born, not because he wanted the shiny things Adam had, but because he wanted the respect that came with it. He wanted people to look at him and say, that kid is the one. But they didn't. They saw someone else. He told me this on an episode of Amateur Spotlight years ago. You can go listen to it now. It's sitting on the homepage of supercrossu.com. And if you listen close, he tells you exactly who he is. Bitter. Jealous. Not the weak kind, the spoiled brat kind. No, the good kind. The kind that turns overlooked kids into straight killers. And when he finally got a shot, he turned that into 2 250 Supercross titles and a 250 Motocross title. Right out of the gate, young. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't fame. It was screw you. Screw you for doubting me. Screw you for looking past me. Screw you for telling me I wasn't good enough. And then came the 450 class, all over again. Nobody saw him as a threat. Nobody had him picked for titles. He was just a 250 guy. A solid dude, not a future champ, not one of those guys. Ken Roxon was, another golden boy, gifted, believed in by everyone. Kenny had the talent, the style, the flash, the lights, and the fans oohed and awed at him, the next superstar, while Cooper was again just there. Let's be honest, with Kenny, it wasn't just racing. There were personal reasons for wanting to smash the dude too. We don't need to get into that, but it wasn't about revenge over something external. It was internal. It was about respect, or lack thereof, again, from everyone. People dismissed him. Honda overlooked him again, just like they did in the amateur days, treating him like he was just a guy. And he won 2 450 Supercross titles with 2 middle fingers in the air. Is it starting to make sense? Now we get to now and what is driving him today and why he's making this face on the gate still. I may not have said this a few months back, but hey, it's new year, new me. I don't believe KTM hates Cooper, but I bet he hates them. This time, it's personal. It's revenge, not at Chase. In fact, Cooper probably sees a little of himself in Chase. They both had to deal with the non-believers. Both are still fighting for respect. No, this one has nothing to do with a rider. This is about Team KTM. This is his Tom Brady moment. Remember when Brady left the Patriots? Everyone asked the same question. Who was really responsible for the dynasty? Was it Brady, the quarterback, the one out there bleeding for it, getting smashed over and over again, but still grabbing rings? Or was it Bill Belichick, the coach, the mastermind behind the team and playbook? Both wanted to prove that they weren't the bride in the marriage. And what happened? The player punked the coach, left New England, and won a Super Bowl without him. And now Bill is a college coach. Doing just fine, by the way, if you're into that. But that's exactly what's happening here. I guarantee you, Every conversation, every meeting, every negotiation he had with KTM in his final days plays in his head like a broken record on repeat. He probably clenches his fist just thinking about it. Probably punches windows, flips tables, knowing how it ended. How often does a two-time champion get released early? By request, but they were over him, and he was over them. They had already signed Chase. They had their next guy, their next future champ, and they moved on. Oh, I bet that stung. And you know what? They weren't wrong. Chase is the future. Chase is a bad dude, and KTM doesn't make bad decisions on their 450 roster. They won with Ryan Dungey first, then Coop, and after he left, they won with Chase last summer. They win. And here's the dagger. Cooper has only won 450 championships with them. He doesn't have a title without that orange bike. That's gotta hurt. And if he wins this one, you know he'll have something to say. For the third time in his career, someone else is getting the love, the attention, the respect, the belief, and he's been pushed aside as the past. You think that sits well with him? You think a guy like Cooper Webb, who breathes resentment like oxygen, is gonna just accept that? Hell no. It doesn't matter if he wins this championship by a mile or an inch. None of it will feel good enough because revenge isn't about winning. It's about making sure the other side feels it. And for Cooper, the color orange is about to make him see red for the rest of the season. And I'm so fired up to watch every lap of it. We're in for a good one, and I can't wait to watch the next chapter of this story in Arlington, a place Cooper has won more than. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching this show. If you liked it, press the like button. And if you want to subscribe, then press the subscribe button. Share it with your friends, with your family, and grandma. Make sure you send it to grandma. Grandmas love everything Main Event Moto does. All you Motoheads out there, we are still rocking and rolling at Main Event Moto. You can go to patreon.com/maineventmoto. We do 2 shows a week now. Patreon.com/maineventmoto, and we will catch you on the next show.